This award is now in its 12th year. It's, for me, was a tremendous honor to have this award named after me. I remember 12 years ago receiving a call about this award and that the idea had been generated, and I thought it was a great idea. I said, wonderful. And then I was told or asked, we'd like to name the award after you. And my first reaction was, but I'm not dead yet. It seemed very strange to have an award named for a person while they're still alive, so I'm still uncomfortable with that, but I'm glad to be alive. Tonight we're here to honor another of our distinguished alumni. She's a person with an extremely long and accomplished record, accomplished in a relatively short amount of time. And I'm very pleased to have Marian Rivera here, and I'd like to say a few things about her so you can get a sense of all that she's done and the type of person that she is. Determined, perceptive, thoughtful, courageous, plain talker, team builder, street smart yet ethical, tough negotiator yet nurturing. These are the words that colleagues and friends have used to describe our Stanford Business School 12th Annual Latino Leadership Award recipient, Miriam Rivera. Most recently, Miriam served as Vice President and Deputy General Counsel at Google, where she led the legal team for Google's corporate, commercial, Asia-Pacific, Latin America, employment, real estate, and technical operations. How did you handle all those things? Those were the 80-hour weeks, weren't they? Okay. Previous to this position, Miriam was Google's Associate General Counsel, managing the revenue and commercial partnership practices. She also served as Assistant Secretary to the Board of Google, Inc., and was a member of the Disclosure Committee of the company, Secretary to the Board of the Google Foundation, and legal lead on Google's Sarbanes-Oxley and other regulatory compliance efforts. Prior to joining Google, Miriam served as in-house counsel for Ariba, Inc. in Sunnyvale, was a co-founder of On Your Mind, later known as Outcome Software, a venture-backed enterprise software company. She was a strategy consultant for Andersen Consulting, now Accenture. Everyone always says Andersen Consulting, now Accenture. Accenture should exist on its own now, right? We've got to forget Andersen. An associate in the business and technology practice at the law firm of Brobeck, Flegger, and Harrison. Currently, she serves on the Board of Visitors of the Stanford Law School and on the Board of Advisors of Decision Street and Hispanic Net. And this last point is something that I think, should applaud her for. She was most recently appointed to the Stanford Board of Trustees. When I learned about it, I told her that she has to get together with Victor Arias for some training. Get into the politics of the Board of Trustees and understand it. So congratulations very much on that. Miriam actively supports numerous charitable and community activities. She's a trustee, board, or executive committee member of the following organizations: the First Congregational Church of Palo Alto, La Casa de las Madres, San Francisco's oldest and largest shelter for battered women, A Better Chance, an educational support program enabling minority high school students to attend prestigious prep schools, Build, an entrepreneurship program targeting at-risk high school students, Village Enterprise Fund, micro-grant program in the developing world, and finally, she continues to serve as a secretary to the board of the Google Foundation. So when do you sleep? Between 6 in the morning, okay. Well, that's what you all have to look forward to. Closer to home, Marian has established a scholarship fund targeting African American and Latino low-income students here at Stanford. And for that, we thank you very much also. For all her efforts and contributions, Miriam has received a number of awards already prior to this one. In April 2005, she was selected by Corporate Counsel magazine as one of the top 10 corporate attorneys in the United States, most likely to be general counsel in a Fortune 500 company within the next 5 years. In September 2005, Miriam was named one of Law Dragon's 500 leading lawyers in America. So those of us who don't know anything about the law profession, I wonder what Law Dragons is about. I fantasized. Anyway, in the spring of 2006, by the way, 2006 was a big year for Miriam. In the spring of 2006, she was named a finalist for the Woman of the Year by Hispanic Business Magazine. Also in 2006, she was named to the Santa Clara County Bar Association's Blue Ribbon Commission on Diversity in the Legal Profession in Silicon Valley. In the same year, the Hispanic National Bar Association voted Miriam Latina Lawyer of the Year. And finally, Hispanic Net named her Latina Executive of the Year. All of that in 2006. So now she's taking a breather. We had nothing in 2007. So we're 2008 here. Miriam received an A.B. in Sociology in 1986 from Stanford and an A.M. in Spanish with specialization in Caribbean literature in 1989, both from Stanford. Then she joined the JD MBA program, so at the Stanford Law School and the Stanford School of Business. She graduated from that in 1994. An incredibly illustrious career, an incredible amount of accomplishment in a very small number of years. She is also, as you can see, a mother and a wife, and has had the ability to balance both a family life and a Google life, and has been very accomplished in both. So I hope you join me in honoring and welcoming our award recipient, Miriam Rivera. Before we get started with her remarks, we want to reward you before you have to work, which is not, it's counter in organizational behavior, right? But we'd like to give you this little memento of the evening and the event, and we congratulate you and appreciate all that you've done for a lot of different people. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. It's beautiful. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction and for this amazing award. I just have to say that after what I did the first quarter, I would never have expected to be honored by the Graduate School of Business. My first thoughts back then were, I can still graduate with a JD in 3 years. So it's really completely was an unexpected pleasure to receive the call about this award, and I thank everyone here who made that possible. I, of course, want to say thank you to a number of people. I wish my mother, Anna Castro, had been able to be here, but she lives in Florida, and it's a long flight for her, and so this was not a good time. But I did bring my daughter, and I wanted to thank my children who have made sacrifices on my behalf to be able to do the kinds of things that I've done that have led to this award. I have a daughter at home also, Sophia, who would not put up with a long dinner like this, so she stayed at home. I wanted to thank people like my mother, my friends, my husband, Clint Corver. I think that any woman who gets to this kind of a position has married well. It's very much the support of a spouse at home, friends, my friends who are here with me celebrating this evening, who have definitely supported the kinds of efforts that have made this possible. And I also want to thank Jill Farmer, who is the woman currently who has been partnering with me in raising my children. I think that people don't recognize often enough how important the person who is helping you at home is to the success of your family, and to especially a woman leader. I have had 2 wonderful nannies in the 9 years that I've been a mother, and without them, I would never have been able to do the things that I did. So I want to thank you very much. So since lawyers are known for being complete plagiarists, I thought I would take a title from Jerry Porras himself and talk about success built to last, and what does success mean to me after all I've been through, having been a student here, having been in the work world, and actually right now taking a hiatus from that work world and that profession, you know, the 60 to 80-hour weeks of my postgraduate time after my JD MBA. And I just wanted to say that one of the things that I think is so important to success is really, there's probably like 5 points, so I'll try to go through them in an organized fashion so you can remember my 5 points. The first one was having a good foundation, and by that I mean the normal things that your parents teach you, character, integrity, the importance of relationship, and having a sense of your own identity, and also taking risks. One of the people that I would credit with that for me has been my mother. She's obviously been my first example in life. She taught me about things like always helping other people. When she would see, for example, one time there was a young woman who came to our door. She was in the streets, and she was a prostitute, and she said, "I ran away from home and I didn't know what I was running into. Would you please help me call the police?" My mom let her into our home, called the police. We waited for them to come so that she could go. I mean, that's what character meant to me in terms of how you help people. My mother was the first person who taught me what it was to be Christian, in the sense that I think Jesus was a Christian. Also, in terms of integrity, we've all seen, you know, all the events that led to Sarbanes-Oxley and so forth, and one of the key things that I think has helped me was just realizing a lot of the times that you should always work as if you don't need the money. If you don't work that way, you won't make the right decisions at the right time. And if you're worried about trying to look good and you're less worried about what your personal character and integrity is, you will make the wrong calls at the wrong time. Meaningful relationships, those are the foundation of my life, and they have been the most important things in my life. And I would say that after Google, one of the things that I've realized has been the biggest success of my life is that, one, I'm still married to the same spouse, and my children actually know who I am. And that was a pretty big task at times to manage. But without those, nobody gets where they get to eventually. Having your sense of identity and who you are, I think that you have to live just beyond ego in life. At the business school, we're all taught about success, and it's always associated with things like money and title and, you know, fancy cars and big homes and that sort of thing. I have to say that if you are led in those directions, you'll be probably led astray in what's really going to make your life meaningful in the long run. But one thing I do think that is great about the business school was that it encouraged people to take risks in their careers. And I have taken risks that at times have led to tremendous rewards. And have always found that when I made a decision that I thought, boy, I'm not sure this is the right thing, over time it came to me to be proven to be the right choice because I was doing it in integrity with myself. So that good foundation, absolutely essential to feeling like you're a success. The second thing is be hungry for more than your own success. One of the things that I think, you know, a lot of times in the world people think that they're at a disadvantage because they're a woman, they're a minority, they're poor. Well, I've been all of those. And I have to say that I actually think that was one of my, and even becoming a mother. In the work world, becoming a mother was sometimes seen as like a potential detriment, that somehow I would be less likely to stick around, that I would be less likely to work the long hours that would sometimes be required. And I have to say that all of those things are not true, because for me, they gave me the kind of heart that you have, the kind of hunger that you want to succeed, that leads you to actually being more likely to be successful. So people who hunger to be successful for more than just themselves, I think, are almost always in a better spot than somebody who is just thinking about number one. This is what Jim Collins calls level 5 leadership, and I totally believe that this is what true leadership is about. One of the best examples of that is Cuba Gooding Jr. in a movie called Men of Honor. He represents the first black master diver in the U.S. Navy. It's got to be one of the most inspiring movies I ever saw. This person goes under the ocean in one of those old-fashioned suits, diving suits, and I'm a diver, certified diver. I have to say I have terrible buoyancy control, and I'm always afraid that I'm going to go right into the propellers of some boat. But he goes under the ocean, and he sits there, and he is left there because he's an African-American man, and they are trying to get him to drop out of the Navy. And that man sits there when the sun sets, and he's in the cold water, and he is breathing under the ocean. You can hear that air in your ears. And he stays down there because he's not just doing this for himself. He's in that Navy trying to break the race barrier in the military. And he will stay down there practically to the point of death to make it possible for other people to be in that position. So don't take all of the things that people consider negatives as negatives. They are the things that will incent you to do more than you ever thought you could. And they will make you succeed because nothing succeeds like success. So when he stays under, he gains the respect of his white colleagues. He's made the first naval master diver. I think that was true at Google. Google had an amazing group of people that worked there and still do, many of them. But the CFO of Google is a Cuban American. The general counsel, African American. One of the founders, Russian immigrant. The senior vice president for sales, an Iranian immigrant who, at the age of 12, his father had died. He took his mother to London and then eventually to the United States in search of opportunity. My sense is that these kind of people, they were truly trying to make a company that was built to last and that was going from good to great. And I just think both of those books are about two of the best. I would say the 7 Habits. Those are the 3 best business books you can buy. Also, one of the things that I've learned is that you have to have or be at least one supporter. This is my friend Jean Kawaji, who's PhD here at Stanford. She was a classmate of mine in the business school, later taught at IMD. One of the things that she said is you have to have one supporter in the room. And one of the most famous examples of this is Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson was the first African-American baseball player to cross the race barrier and to become a part of a major league team. One of the people that was his supporter is a gentleman named Pee Wee Reese, who was a white captain of the team that Jackie Robinson joined. And at that time, the other players had led a petition drive to make it so that Jackie Robinson could not play on, I think it was the Brooklyn Dodgers at that time. And he won as the captain. He refused to sign that. Another time, the whole stadium was booing Jackie Robinson and refusing to let him onto the team to even play the sport. Pee Wee Reese went out there, stood on the field with Jackie Robinson, and just quietly stood with his teammate. Eventually, the crowd stopped booing. They stopped trying to protest this black player in the game. The game went on, and history was made. So have or be that one supporter, because you will need it. For me, one of the things that I had to do in a previous company, that company you heard about called On Your Mind, I had to lay off one of my best friends. I was literally the best man at his wedding. And later on, when I was looking for that job at Google, he was one supporter at Google who knew me, had worked with me. Even though I basically fired him, he recommended me to be hired there. That meant a lot to my family, as you can imagine, since I was employee number 160. So treat people well, meaningful relationships, that counts for a lot. Another thing that I think is important as you become more and more successful, you'll hear a lot about yourself, both good and bad, if you make anything of your life. And I have to say that one of the important things I've learned is don't put too much stock in either. even this, it's a wonderful honor, and I appreciate it. And I also try to put it in perspective. One, I received a lot of bad messages when I was growing up. My mother had a third-grade education. My father had left when I was 9 years old. I didn't see him again until I was 18. I had the experience of being told that I would basically amount to nothing. I'd be on welfare. I would, just never make anything of myself. And, again, the things that you think are counting against you may be your biggest assets in life, because you can take them and do with them what you will. You can decide if they will be assets for you or they will be a detriment. So when I had all the bad messages, I just tried to change the message. What was I going to hear? I was not taking my messages from those people that were giving me that kind of a message. I really turned to books. I turned to faith. I have faith. And I hear the message of the voice of God or the voice of my higher self, however people feel comfortable to hear it. And I rely on that. I don't rely also about all the things that people think are so great about me or either, because it's a real temptation to fall into ego as you become successful and to believe that you are so much the master of destiny and the master of industry, and to not really have a sense of the fact that there's a lot that gets done by other people that support you. There's a lot that is up to luck and chance. There is certainly a lot of hard work. I've done my share. But in the long run, it's not about you. Most likely, you and many other people were responsible for the success that you have become. So try to rely on your higher self and not on your ego. And listen to that voice inside when it tells you to take certain risks, because I found that that's the best voice to take and to listen to. I was voted the most likely to become the general counsel of a Fortune 500 company. By the time I was a vice president at Google, it was a Fortune 500 company. And I had the opportunity to be the general counsel of that Fortune 500 company. At that time, it was not the right time for me. It was not the right time for my family. I was tired. I didn't realize I was also sick. I had challenged my marriage a lot. 80 hours a week for 5 years and 2 kids, and juggling was a major toil and a major challenge to kind of the quality of relationship in my family and the quality of relationships in my life. I was really beginning to wonder, is this what success is? I had a friend whose mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and during that time she had decided to take her own life with the full support of her family, and I missed that chapter in that friend's life, and I don't want to do that again. Success doesn't mean that much if you really aren't having the meaningful relationships with your friends that you need to be a full person. So that was, don't take too much of the good or too much of the bad. Somewhere in between is probably the right amount for you. Another one is, when life throws you a loop, keep the faith. Wait to find out what's in it for you, what's the message, what's the learning that you need to have when that loop gets thrown. After I had to leave Google because I was so sick and so tired, I was sure something was wrong. I thought it might be worse than it actually turned out to be. But I let myself say, I'm going to take this break. I'm going to take a year off. I'm going to figure out what's wrong. I'm going to deal with this. And it turned out that in that year, I've really had a chance to reflect on what success is, what it means to me. And I think that I've gotten in a much better place where whatever happens in the rest of my life, I just feel much more grounded in who I am, what I want to do, who I want to be, what's the life I want to live. And without that illness, without that passing up of a great opportunity, I just wouldn't be in the same place I am today. And I appreciate the fact that you can still get an honor being completely unemployed and and not having been the best student at the Graduate School of Business. But I've been a good student of life, and I've been a good student at Stanford. So I Thank you very much for this honor. I hope that you will have tremendous personal success and that it will come from a place within you where you can really revel in your achievements and feel proud of who you are at the end of it. Thank you.